All right, so you sent us this article about Puff Daddy and Sting. Sting-like. The Sting. The fields of gold. Every breath you take, Sting. What in the world do these two have in common besides being music legends?
It's a question that has sparked a lot of debate, actually, and it all circles back to one song and a whole lot of cash.
See, now you've piqued my interest. I'm guessing this isn't about some hidden duet album they recorded in the 80s. Hit me with it. What's the story?
The story really starts back in 1997. Diddy, then Puff Daddy, releases I'll Be Missing You, his iconic tribute to Biggie Smalls. You know the one, right?
Know it, please. I practically wore out my cassette single back in the day.
Yeah.
But what a lot of people might not know is that there's a sample in there. The melody from the Police's Every Breath You Take.
And it's that sample that takes us from a heartfelt tribute to a fascinating case study in music ownership, artistic inspiration, and, oh yeah, a whole lot of money.
Okay, let's unpack this. What does it even mean to sample a song, especially back then?
Sampling, taking a piece of existing music and incorporating it into a new song, is pretty commonplace now. But in the 90s, it wasn't standard practice, especially not on the level Diddy was doing it.
So he was kind of a trailblazer, for better or worse.
In a way, yes, but here's where things get sticky. He didn't actually clear the sample with Sting, who owned the rights to Every Breath You Take, before releasing I'll Be Missing You.
Wait, hold on. So he just used it without asking.
Pretty much. And to make matters even more complicated, I'll Be Missing You blew up, becoming this massive hit. And that's when the story about the royalties really gets interesting.
All right, you've successfully baited the hook.
Yeah.
Let's talk numbers, because that's what everyone wants to know, right? How much are we talking about here?
Well, Sting himself has said in interviews that he receives about $2,000 per day in royalties because of that sampler.
Per day. Get out of here.
Right.
Seriously.
Hmm?
$2,000 every single day just from Diddy using that melody.
Every single day. You do the math, and that's over $700,000 every year. And it's been over 2 decades since I'll Be Missing You was released.
Okay, suddenly I'm feeling very inspired to pick up a guitar and write the next big hit, or at least figure out how royalties work. But seriously, this isn't just about Diddy writing a check, is it? This speaks to something much larger within the music industry.
Absolutely. This situation throws a spotlight on what it means to own your masters, those original recordings. It's like owning the goose that lays the golden egg year after year. And in this case, Sting's goose is laying some very valuable eggs indeed.
Okay, my mind is still stuck on those golden eggs.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder about the dynamic between these two. Sting casually raking in thousands a day, and Diddy presumably a little less thrilled about that whole situation.
Right. You'd think there would be some bad blood there, or at least a bit of tension. But the reality is a bit more nuanced. Publicly, Sting seems to find the whole thing quite amusing. He's even joked about it in interviews.
Well, yeah, I mean, who wouldn't crack a smile when they got that kind of daily reminder of their success?
Exactly. But what's interesting is Diddy's response, or rather, lack thereof. He's remained remarkably quiet on the whole issue.
Silence. From Diddy. Now that's interesting. It's like he's playing his cards close to his chest. What do you think that says, if anything, about how he views this whole situation?
It's hard to say for sure, but it does add another layer of intrigue to this whole story. Some speculate that Diddy's silence might stem from a sense of pride, letting the music speak for itself. Others suggest there might be lingering complexities about how that initial sample clearance played out, or didn't play out, as it were.
It makes you wonder what conversations happen behind closed doors, right? And how has this situation potentially shaped how sampling is handled today, especially with newer artists?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? This whole saga with Diddy and Sting became a sort of cautionary tale. After all, it's not every day that a sample gone wrong turns into a $2,000 a day lesson.
It really puts a fine point on the importance of understanding your rights as an artist. I imagine this whole situation sent a ripple effect throughout the music industry.
Absolutely. It highlighted the need for clearer guidelines, more transparency, and perhaps a greater emphasis on collaboration and upfront agreements between artists when it comes to using samples.
So are we saying this case potentially changed the game for how sampling works?
It's hard to say for sure, but it certainly ignited those conversations. Think about it. You're an aspiring musician. Maybe you've even sampled a bit yourself. Seeing a story like this unfold, seeing the financial implications and the potential for conflict, it makes you stop and think twice.
You're not just borrowing a cool beat anymore, are you? You're potentially stepping into a web of legal and financial obligations.
Yeah.
It's a lot bigger than just making music.
Exactly. And it raises a really interesting point about the evolution of creative practices. Especially with the rise of digital music and technology, sampling has become such an integral part of certain genres. But cases like this force us to confront the ethical and artistic boundaries within that process.
It's like that line between inspiration and appropriation just got a whole lot blurrier.
Yeah.
Where do you even draw that line?
That's the million-dollar question, and there's no easy answer. But I think the Diddy and Sting situation forced everyone in the industry, from artists to producers to record labels, to take a hard look at those blurred lines.
So maybe this wasn't just a cautionary tale, but a catalyst for change.
Possibly. Think about how sampling is handled now. Contracts are more airtight. There's a greater focus on securing rights up front. And we're seeing more collaborative sampling where the original artist is brought into the fold, even credited as a songwriter.
It's like the Wild West of sampling got tamed a little bit.
In a way, yes. And that speaks to a larger shift in how we value music and artistic creation. We're more aware of intellectual property, the rights of creators, and the financial stakes involved.
Which in a way brings us back to Diddy and Sting. This whole situation is still unfolding, isn't it? I'll Be Missing You is still played everywhere. Those royalties are still rolling in. And that dynamic between them remains this fascinating question mark.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, will we ever get a definitive answer on how they truly feel about this whole thing? Will they collaborate again? Will one of them release a tell-all memoir that finally reveals what happened behind the scenes?
The mystery continues. Who knew a song released in 1997 could still be sparking so many questions and conversations?
That's the beauty of music, isn't it? It's a time capsule, a cultural artifact, and sometimes a catalyst for change. And this deep dive into I'll Be Missing You, well, it just goes to show that even a simple sample can unlock a world of complexity, intrigue, and maybe even a little bit of inspiration.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that music is more than just notes on a page. It's history, it's business, it's emotions, and it's stories that continue to unfold long after the last note fades away. So next time you're listening to your favorite playlist, take a moment to think about the stories behind those songs, the samples that might be hidden in plain sight, and the artists who created them. You never know what you might uncover.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this musical deep dive. Until next time, keep those ears tuned and those minds curious.